Trigger warning. The things that you're seeing on the screen right now, yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of these things in great detail. So if you're uncomfortable with that or are triggered by any of these things, maybe don't watch this video, okay? Okay. Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. So I have been paying very close attention to the stats of my last video, the analytics, and oh my god, guys, oh my fucking god. I cannot believe the amount of love that was in that comment section. I cannot believe that people were so nice and positive and charitable in the comments of my last video. No, just looked at the like to dislike ratio. That video has to be single-handedly the worst received video on this channel. So I thought, after that video, maybe, we all need something that is a lot less controversial, I guess. Something that will be kind of well received, So I thought maybe I should make this video on this particular YouTuber. And I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a very uncontroversial video. No one is gonna get mad at people posting this video. I'm pretty sure what's gonna happen. But I have to talk about this particular YouTuber. So, who am I talking about here? So, the person I'm talking about in this video is named Teal Swan. The way that Teal actually got on my radar was when I was watching a video by Ready to Glare, and I saw some people discuss Teal Swan in the comment section. And I was like, I remember that name. That name sounds familiar. So, I started watching her videos and stuff, and yeah, pretty soon I was in a rabbit hole. There's a lot to Teal Swan that people just don't know about, and I want to discuss them in this video, and in the next video as well. So, who is Teal Swan? Teal Swan is a spiritual guru and a spiritual leader. Most of her work actually comprises of talking about mental health with a layer of spirituality attached to it. Her main influence is here online, but other than that, she is also a very successful author. She has written many books. And just like any other spiritual guru and spiritual leader, she also hosts retreats. And back in the day, she also used to see clients, individual clients, but because, she got so popular and so successful, she couldn't do that anymore. So as you can see, Teal has multiple sources of income, and another one of her, I guess you could call it businesses, would be the completion process. So the completion process is Teal's signature therapy method, which is an 18-step process for someone to heal their inner childhood traumas. It is a place where people can get some kind of counseling from people called the completion process practitioners, who are trained and certified by Teal herself, who is not a mental health professional. So it's clear that Teal is a very influential person. But most of her influence is actually here, online, on this platform, YouTube. She also has a YouTube channel called Teal Swan, which has over 700,000 subscribers. She makes videos on multiple different topics, but it's pretty clear that the main videos that she makes are on topics such as mental health, suicide, trauma, generally mental health related topics. Often in her videos, she talks about mental health and other topics by using a lot of spiritual jargon, which I for one don't really get, and it is a pet peeve of mine. I don't really like it. But yeah, she focuses a lot on mental health, and she gives a lot of advice to people who are going through some kind of hard time. But with Teal Swan, there are a lot of critics and a lot of haters who actually say that Teal Swan's work is in some ways dangerous, although she also has a lot of fans. And her followers, her fans, will tell you that Teal has really helped them with their mental health. There are many testimonials. So just know that even though in this video I'm going to be very critical of Teal, I mean, who could have fucking guessed for that thumbnail and that title, eh? But even though in this video I'm going to be quite negative towards Teal and I'm going to throw a lot of criticism at her, I do see that she does give a lot of good advice. She does. I have watched a lot of her videos. I can tell you firsthand that she does give good advice. However, I like to point out that she is human and is certainly not God. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, let's jump into the video. So let me start off by saying that Teal has a lot of wacky ideas. On her website, The Completion Process, it says right here that Teal has a wide range of extrasensory abilities, including clairvoyance, clairsentience, and clairaudience. What the fuck? What the fuck? You know, she has all of these extrasensory abilities that us normie humans just don't have access to. Here is Teal talking about her extrasensory abilities.
When she started going to school, being around other seemingly normal kids, Teal says she was finding out she had special abilities.
Well, it's been like this since I was born, but I first realized that it was not normal when nobody else was reacting to things that I was reacting to. Like I'm watching an entity walk around the room and nobody else is doing it. Or else I'm starting to describe people in the room in terms of what color they are, and people are like, I don't have any idea what that means. When I'm talking about all of this stuff going on and like people are clapping and I can actually see the noise and I'm hearing colors and yeah. When I've got this whole thing going on, my parents are just like, this is over our head, like way over our head. So this guy came in and he's like, it's not over my head. I actually know what to do about this.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to say this before. This is from the Gizmodo podcast about Teal Swan, and it's called The Gateway, and it shows the journey of a reporter, Jennings Brown, who goes out to investigate Teal. And I'm going to be using a lot of clips from that podcast. And as always, the link will be in the description. She also believes in reincarnation, which in and of itself isn't really like that crazy of a belief. But the problem comes when she says herself that she remembers living in her past lives. And she remembers it as clearly as you or I would remember our teenage years. This is something that she has said in a video.
So I was in India this past year. I had a pretty epic trip. I spent 7 months in Asia.
Yeah.
And you see Sai Baba images all over. And went on this awesome trek, and then you end up with a spectacular view. And there was a little shrine up there. And inside the shrine were images of 4 different deities, I believe. And I forget exactly, but I think it was Krishna, Shiva, and Vishnu, and then Sai Baba. So Sai Baba was the only one that was an actual person, or I mean, that we know of. And so Sai Baba is very, very highly revered. So, what is your memory of that life as clear to you as your memories of this life?
Yes.
Wow.
Just feels, I remember them with the same kind of clarity that you would remember being 16 or 17. My intention was to find an end to suffering. It seems to be like an ongoing trend. In that life I was able to do a lot more grassroots work. Basically in the place that I essentially owned, basically people would get dropped off there nonstop. So I was doing a lot more on a one-on-one personal basis with people. Because a lot of that, of course, changes because the modern world changes. But back then, they used to drop off people if they couldn't take care of them, and the place to take them is obviously like a temple or some other type of a spiritual or likewise religious type of a location. Because obviously, you can guarantee that people of the cloth, or lack thereof cloth, are going to take care of people who are disenfranchised. So there were a lot of cripples that were dropped off. There were a lot of people with diseases that were dropped off. There were orphans that were dropped off, and most of my job in that life, honestly, if people want to know the true story, was trying to deal with all of that. When Shirdi reincarnated to Sathya, a lot of us pulled out. And now, of course, this is difficult for people to understand because we don't see consciousness like a river, but that's how it is. So you have a main river, which is really big, but that river might be comprised of multiple streams of consciousness. So multiple streams of consciousness can participate in one perspective. So often spiritual teachers are a grouping of consciousness. So when one consciousness or one intention really continues to a next life, meaning this intention has moved from Shirdi Sai Baba to Sathya Sai Baba, then sometimes only a portion of those soul streams, hey, I just did that, a portion will continue, and these ones will not. They'll go into other incarnations. That's what I decided to do. That's why I did not participate in Sathya Sai Baba. In that particular perspective, there was a major rift that happened.
So the person that Teal is talking about there, that she apparently worked with in a past life is Sai Baba. I just noticed this now, sorry about that. And if you don't know who Sai Baba is, how to explain this? Sai Baba is one of the gods in Hinduism, and there was a person named Sai Baba who lived in real life, just like Jesus Christ. And her saying that she worked with Sai Baba is like very insane, first of all. Like, how to explain this? Okay, if I were to translate what she is saying right here about Eastern religions, and if I were to translate that into Western religions, I would say her saying that she worked with Sai Baba in previous life is equivalent to Teal saying that she worked with Jesus Christ in a previous life. And that's quite problematic, as you can imagine, because that establishes her as an authority. Like, if you believe about Teal what she believes about herself, and you believe that Teal is this person who worked with gods, you have already established her as an authority figure. And that's the reason why people say that Teal runs a cult, by the way. I'll talk more about that, don't worry. And not only that, but she has said to her devoted followers, they have lived in previous lives and they have met in previous lives.
I'm sitting on a couch in John Wainsgard's living room. He's been telling me about his late wife Leslie and her work with Teal. Teal told John they'd known each other in past lives.
She told me about some of her previous incarnations. Probably the most notable was we weren't married, but she was, in the same Eskimo village where she perished. They went out on a I believe it was a whale hunt, and she actually drowned.
And that, I'm gonna talk more about this later on, but this kind of establishes her authoritative nature, which we're gonna talk more about in a moment. There was also this one time that a follower of Teal Swan created his own language in his head. Just hear him speak about this. This isn't like creating your own language for the sake of it. I like to do that, but this is something else.
In the Teal tribe, Todd could be his true, weird, spiritual self. Hell, he could speak his own language. Literally, he had his own special language. He calls it his light language. It's kind of like speaking in tongues. Todd never felt comfortable doing it around anyone. That is, until Teal told him in an email she understood it, and I imagine that made him feel pretty special. So he decided to share it in the Teal tribe. Here's a video he posted in the group.
Hey everyone, it's Todd. So I'm making this video today because I speak a light language that I've spoken pretty much my whole life, off and on. I always thought I was a little crazy when I was younger, but there's definitely a lot of meaning to it, and it's my time to start sharing it with a broader audience. So I love you, and I hope this is beneficial to you.
Todd says Teal told him other things over email, like they knew each other in a past life.
And I'm not saying that Teal is responsible for that follower's behavior. I'm not saying that she should be held responsible for that as if she fucking does that shit. No. I'm holding her responsible for saying to that follower, yeah, I understand this language. So it's pretty clear that Teal has a lot of wacky ideas. And now I hear you say, but Jean? Yeah, sure, she believes in a lot of wacky ideas. She believes in a lot of crazy ideas. Yeah, sure. But it isn't really harming anyone now, is it? Come on, Jean. If it isn't really harming anyone, why? Why are you going off? Well, to that I have to say, wrong. You're just wrong. Her crazy ideas, her crazy beliefs aren't just crazy ideas in the fucking ether. They do active harm. And they do active harm in two ways. First is because of her authoritative nature, which we're going to talk about more. But secondly, one of her most craziest beliefs is actually her stance on vaccines. Teal is an anti-vaxxer. Here's a video that Teal made, I think in 2012, although I can't check it. And yeah, take a look at this.
Everyone has button subjects, those subjects which elicit the most amount of emotion and passion from them, and this is one of mine. In my opinion, the birth of the vaccination is not only one of the biggest scientific mistakes, it is also one of the biggest human embarrassments in history. Your doctors are not educated in medical school on the harm of vaccines. The education they are given is completely biased in favor of vaccination. Many of the clinics you visit make their very living off of these vaccines. So they have no reason to tell you all of the harm that these vaccines could cause you. As a medical intuitive, I have only ever seen damage done by a vaccine. I have never seen it actually create something that is beneficial within the human system. We would like to blame these bugs for what it is that's causing deaths relative to these diseases, saying that the viruses are actually getting worse. The problem here is that we feed our children crap. We feed ourselves total crap. We have terrible diets. And we don't rest anymore. The things which go into a thriving immune system, we don't actually reinforce within the society. It is those choices that we make that result in an immune system that is susceptible to illness.
So that is quite concerning coming from a public figure. And here's the thing, right? Like, take what she's saying here to its ending conclusion. So the reason why, vaccines are getting worse is because our immune systems are just not ready to deal with it. They're just terrible. And why are our immune systems so terrible? It's because we eat junk food. It's because we drink coffee and don't rest enough. So, to take that to its ending conclusion, what do you get? Oh yeah, all you need to do is make your immune system better by, I don't know, going vegan, eating whole food, plant-based, not drinking coffee, not eating processed foods, and yeah, you won't need to vaccinate at all. That's the ending conclusion there. And by the way, if you're wondering, yes, she is vegan. So yeah, that's pretty concerning coming from a public figure. But there's something else. There's another clip, a short clip that you guys need to hear, okay? Take a listen to this.
In the future, vaccination will be looked at in the same way that we look at bloodletting today. It will be seen as an embarrassment in human history. As always, there's a benefit which comes out of this kind of suffering which could be created if vaccines are actually made mandatory, if you're not just threatened with the fact that they are mandatory. We should have all learned from World War II what happens when certain portions of a demographic are isolated based on their decisions. In World War II, it was the decision to be Jewish. In our day and age, it is the decision to not vaccinate.
She literally said, oh yeah, being an anti-vaxxer is like being Jewish in Nazi Germany. She literally said that. She literally went there. Oh my god. Fucking talk about having a victim complex. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. I can't believe that there was someone who watched that video multiple times while editing it and thought, yeah, that seems completely fine. Jesus Christ, that is insane. This video is very strange, as you can see. And yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what commentary to give there. In that video, you can very clearly see that she's using a lot of conspiracy thinking, as if, there are pharmaceutical companies that are not just lobbying to raise prices, because, that's normal, that is fucking very logical, but they're lobbying to alter your human body. So there's a lot of conspiracy thinking there. Also, she uses the term, she says that she's, quote, a medical intuitive, like a couple of times in that video.
As a medical intuitive, perhaps my biggest argument against vaccines is the fact that we are crossing the blood barrier.
What the fuck is that, Teal? What the fuck is that? So I guess that's just, your gut feeling that vaccines are bad, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna come back to this point later on. Anyways, so this video was actually criticized by another YouTuber here, Jeff Holiday, and when Jeff uploaded his video, Teal just magically deleted her video. And now I hear you say, Jean, she has deleted the video. She has deleted the video. What are you going on about? Well, she didn't really apologize. She didn't really say I'm sorry, or she didn't really make another video saying, hey, I was wrong there. So, there's that. And I hear you say, Jean, whatever the case might be, she has deleted the video. This video isn't up on the channel anymore. Are you really going out of your way to find a video that Teal herself has deleted in order to criticize it? Really? I mean, it's not like Teal has recently talked about being anti-vax, right? I mean, it's not like Teal has gone out there and said that she doesn't believe in vaccines like at all after COVID struck in April of 2020, right?
Do that.
Yes, and guess what? There's more of us. There's more of us than we think. That's something, by the way, that has been quite uplifting for me this last week. Yesterday, especially. People who know me well know that I don't believe in vaccines at all. It's one of my hottest button subjects, right?
This is post-COVID. In the beginning of this video, she talks about how her team is actually stuck abroad because of this virus.
My entire team and myself are stuck overseas. We're one of those, really lucky people who we had an event, basically scheduled 2 of them in a row, landed, and the very next day, it was like, well, sorry, not getting home.
This is post-COVID. And she's just saying out here, like, I don't believe in vaccines, like, at all. Like, we're currently in a global pandemic right now. We need the fucking vaccine. And she's just going out here and saying, like, oh, I don't believe in vaccines, like, at all. Are you dumb or are you stupid? What the fuck, Teal? By the way, I can't, I'm sorry. Do you guys know how Teal justifies her knowing all of this stuff about vaccines and health? Do you guys know how she justifies her knowing all that stuff, that apparently even doctors don't know about? Do you guys know how she justifies it?
I mean, a lot of information happens. This is the problem with you and me, okay? If you have the access that I have to universal consciousness, I can pull information like you'd never believe. I mean, from everywhere.
What do you mean by universal consciousness?
Let's imagine that every thought that's ever been thought exists.
It's we're imagining, okay.
No, that's reality.
You said let's imagine.
Yeah, but you're imagining, but this is reality, okay? Every thought that has ever been thought exists in this quantum soup. You can pull it down. That means that if you have the capacity to do that, they call it the akashik records. If you're tapped into the akashik records, you have access to all kinds of information, leagues and leagues worth of information that most people would have to go to school for years and years to understand. I can download it.
Akashik records?
Akashic.
Akashic.
They call it akashic records, but it's just literally, it's every thought that has ever been thought exists.
But it's like you're able, it seems like you can pull from that for some things, but like in Costa Rica, you were saying, I wish I could speak different languages.
Yeah, I have an issue with that.
Like how does it work some ways and some ways not?
I feel, you know what, I've actually been trying to figure this out for myself. Yeah. I haven't put enough energy into it, but I haven't figured out why it works for some things and not other things.
What are things that it works particularly well with?
For me, medicine.
What do you know about medicine?
I'm a medical savant. That's the best way to explain it. Mm-hmm. It's where my interest is, and it's literally like I just sponge. Mm-hmm. It's been that way since I was young. Sort of bummed I didn't go into surgery. Well, I'm not bummed because I would probably be put in jail by now, but like...
Why would you be put in jail?
Because I really would be one of those surgeons who refuse to operate according to the laws that the insurance companies set out that are stupid.
Oh, yeah. Of course. The reason why she has access to all of this information that doctors and us normie humans just don't know about is because, she has access to universal consciousness. She has access to Akashic records. And the reason why she has access to all these records is because she is just so much more enlightened than everyone else. Oh my god, that is fucking insane. And Teal doesn't just have wacky ideas on vaccines, she has wacky ideas on health as well. Did you saw how she talked about surgeons there? Did you saw the language that she used? Oh yeah, those surgeons, those who go to medical school, oh yeah, they don't really know much about human body and the things that they're doing. Do you know why? Because pharmaceutical companies are the ones setting the rules here. Now, it is not conspiracy to say that, pharmaceutical companies lobby the government to raise prices because that is their primary motive. Yeah, that's why they're fucking lobbying. However, what Teal is saying here is much more conspiratorial than that, and it lacks any evidence. Cite your sources, Teal! Cite your fucking sources!
If you have the access that I have to universal consciousness, I can pull information like you'd never believe. I mean, from everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I remember. So yeah, she has this very conspiratorial worldview. And because, she is such a large influencer and she does, have a lot of influence, this could be actually very fucking dangerous when they, how many times? I have seen so many cancer patients that don't go to the doctors, and they don't go to the doctors because, those doctors don't really know what they're talking about because they're being paid by the pharmaceutical industries. That's the reason why they don't go to the doctors. And what they do instead is shit like, they're gonna go on a raw food diet. They're gonna go on a vegan raw food diet. That is something I've seen so often. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my bias, because I am vegan and I have heard those stories so many fucking times, and they make me sick to my stomach. She's harming a lot of people here. She is harming a lot of people here. We don't know how many people, but there have to be many people who either delay their medical procedures or just don't do it outright because of Teal. Because Teal spouts this fucking bullshit. And not just that, by the way. Not just that. So in the Gizmodo podcast about Teal Swan, Jennings Brown actually found out something very interesting about Teal when he was on her retreat, Philia. The most common practice that occurs on Teal's retreat is actually channeling. I think it's episode number 3 of the Gizmodo podcast. And you can hear a lot of people screaming in the background of that episode.
I'm not going to say we don't all have our triggers and issues, but the most wonderful part about her, and the thing that I'm learning most from her is...
Do you know what's going on over there?
Well, someone's just in a part.
Okay. Excellent.
That happens.
Yeah.
Playing painful parts.
What's happening over there from what you don't know specifically, but what's happening?
Let me tune into it.
Okay.
Someone is playing the part of deep despair. I can really feel it in my stomach too. So obviously I don't know exactly what's going on, but
what exactly is happening in the channeling process to lead to a space like what's happening over there?
Okay, so everything is one energy. So we are basically all literally created from the same exact energy. So if you're the same energy, you can be...
And what those people are doing is something called channeling. It is people playing other people's family members and inner emotional trauma, and it is a therapy method of Teal. And Teal says that it's like being possessed, but intentionally. And I will say this, that in a lot of retreats, there is some amount of role-playing involved. People play other people's family members, and yeah, that there's some amount of role-playing involved there. However, there was this one person in the Gizmodo podcast that Jennings talked about, named Dr. D, who is a medical professional and a surgeon. And she went to this retreat in order to learn stuff about the human body from Teal. She wanted to get an education from Teal. And more than that, she actually wanted to open up a clinic so that she could train other doctors and educate them on things that they are not taught in medical school that she learned from Teal.
My name is Ivana Jeletovic. I am a gastroenterologist and advanced endoscopist.
a surgeon who has trained and worked at some of the best hospitals in the country. The Mayo Clinic, Harvard, MD Anderson.
I'm Dr. D. Everybody calls me Dr. D.
What Dr. D and most people here do have in common is they all found Teal on YouTube. For her, it was the video, How to Heal the Emotional Body.
Today I'm going to talk to you about the feeling body. The feeling body is what most people call the emotional body. So you can use these two terms interchangeably.
In the video, Teal explains that when we're sick, it's really just a manifestation of emotional issues, especially suppressed emotions. Dr. D connected to this message because she had started to question the medical establishment and the limits of what she learned in school. She was worried she wasn't doing everything she could to help her patients.
What I'm realizing now is that Western medicine only treats a limited aspect of a disease, which is the physical aspect, but it doesn't treat this other energy aspect of disease that actually does exist. Like, I was sort of asking questions in my head, and then her video popped up. It was sort of like finding an answer that finally makes sense.
Now she's adding to her years of medical schooling with an education from Teal. She told me that one day she'd like to open a clinic to help educate other doctors about the aspects of disease they didn't learn about in school.
My primary work with her, in a sense, is to understand the subconscious mind and then figure out how that affects her physical health.
And that in of itself is concerning. It is concerning. But more than that, Teal actually talked about Dr. D in that podcast. And here is Teal talking about how Dr. D has incorporated a lot of things that Teal has taught Dr. D, and she has started incorporating it in her medical practice. And now she wants Dr. D to, quote, spiritually channel human organs.
Teal told me early on that she wanted to focus on Dr. D.
I'm really interested in watching her processes and making it so that she can comprehend this, because it'll change her entire practice if she does.
Wow.
No more guessing games as a doctor.
Wow.
Like, let's say, like, she's a gastric surgeon, so she deals with the digestive system. Mm-hmm. So let's say that she's dealing with a patient. She can take another doctor or somebody randomly off the street, and she says, can you play, the liver of so-and-so? Can you play the stomach of so-and-so? She can see how the organs are interacting and what's going on there to create the underlying issue. She's already started doing this in her work. But, like, this is the next level for her by the time she goes.
If you missed that, she said she literally wants Dr. D to take people off the street to channel her patients' organs.
Well, you heard that right. What is that even supposed to mean, Teal? What is that even supposed to mean? What the fuck are you talking about here? And this is actually a great pivot. Do you guys know why I brought up that old video that Teal herself deleted about vaccines? Because I wanted you to notice Teal's language here. Teal is talking about how she wants to, quote, spiritually channel human organs. Teal is talking about how she knows about vaccines because she is, quote, a medical intuitive. Teal is talking about how she knows about a lot of medical stuff, not because she is a medical professional, but because she has access to akashik records. Are you guys noticing a pattern here? The reason why I brought up that old video of Teal talking about vaccines is because it shows pretty clearly how her beliefs about herself and her having all of these extrasensory abilities, her having those beliefs and her spiritual jargon, how both of these things are related and how they help Teal justify her beliefs about vaccines. Teal's spiritual jargon isn't just jargon. It serves a deeper purpose. Did you notice how she's talking about vaccines there? She's talking about it as, quote, a medical intuitive. She's talking about how she wants to spiritually channel human organs. She's using the same spiritual jargony language that she uses in her other videos. Her spiritual jargon isn't just jargon. I mean, if it was, it would be a pet peeve of mine, but okay, I will let that go. But it isn't just jargon though. The spiritual jargon that Teal uses in all of her videos actually plays into her being this authority figure that no one can question. If you believe about Teal what she believes about herself, that she's this enlightened individual that has access to akashik records and she has all of these extrasensory abilities, how could you meaningfully say to Teal that she is wrong here? How in the world could you ever meaningfully disagree with Teal? You don't even have access to the same knowledge that Teal does. You're not even on the same playing field as Teal. And also remember, she's also targeting a vulnerable group of people here. That is why this is so insidious. There's a reason why, people say that Teal is a cult leader. And being honest, I don't really think that's a meaningful characterization in any way, because when people are talking about cults, they don't even have a set definition of a cult. However, there's a reason why people say that Teal is a cult leader, because of her authoritative nature. If you look at her authoritative nature, if you take her words seriously, and if you think that, hey, Teal is this enlightened individual and has all of these extrasensory abilities and has access to universal consciousness that you and I just don't have access to, you have already established her as an authority figure that no one can question. Really insidious shit, by the way. That is why I think that Teal spreading misinformation about vaccines and health in general is actually a lot more dangerous than normal celebrities doing the same thing. Because, here's the thing. Normal celebrities, for the most part, don't go out there and say that, hey, I have access to universal consciousness and akashik records, and I have these extrasensory abilities that you just don't have access to. Normal celebrities don't usually have that cultish persona, but Teal does. Teal does do all that shit. But even if you say that, hey, Jean, I don't really think that Teal coming out as anti-vax or spreading misinformation about health is going to be more dangerous than other celebrities doing that. If you think that, well, it's bad either way, right? Come on. She is a very influential figure. She has over 700,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Either way, it is pretty bad. Let's be real. So it is clear that Teal is spreading misinformation about vaccines and health. However, Teal isn't just spreading misinformation about those topics. She is also very irresponsible with her messaging on suicide. Big trigger warning here. We're going to be talking about suicide, and I'm not just gonna lightly touch on it. It's going to be a huge thing here, so be aware of that. So let me start off by saying that Teal isn't a mental health professional. She isn't. However, that in and of itself doesn't mean that she can't talk about suicide, because anyone can do that. You don't need a qualification to talk about suicide, However, some of her messaging is really bad. And now I hear you are typing in the comment section, you a Teal Swan follower, and you're saying, but Jean, she has already addressed this. She has talked about this many times. She has already addressed this. Well, I hear you, and I have watched those videos, and I think her videos are absolutely fucking dog shit. Here's why I say this. In one of her videos about responding to allegations, I think it was titled Responding to Allegations, someone is asking her questions about her messaging on suicide, except they didn't talk about messaging on suicide. You know what the question was? You know what the question that guy posed to Teal? He legitimately just fucking said, Teal, do you want people to commit suicide?
Some critics call you the suicide catalyst, and they claim you are promoting suicide to your followers. Do you want people to commit suicide? What is your exact stand on suicide?
Jesus Christ. Talk about strawmanning your opponent's argument. Hey, Teal, do you want people to commit suicide? I have never seen someone strawman their opponent's arguments that, fucking talk about strawmanning an argument that strawman was made out of fucking half a straw, okay? Okay, here's the thing. I do think that Teal in her heart thinks that she's doing the right thing here. I do think so. I don't think that she has malicious intent here. However, some of her messaging is bad. Not saying that she wants people to legitimately off themselves, but that her messaging is bad. And I know that Teal Swan followers really don't like when I mention this, and it's fine, I guess. But I do think that this is important to bring up. So, editing me here, just wanted to jump in and say that you can take advice, you can watch spiritual gurus and take advice from whoever you want. That person doesn't have to be a mental health professional. You can take advice from whichever source you want and whichever source you think is the most helpful. And if I ever disagree with this, I would be a hypocrite because, being honest, there are people online who have helped me more than my therapist. I'm specifically thinking about a channel titled Understanding Narcissists, and that guy helped me more than my therapist. I can say that with confidence. Does that mean because, oh my god, he wasn't a mental health professional, I shouldn't have taken advice from him? Does that mean because his advice wasn't technically recommended by a mental health professional, I shouldn't have listened to him? No. It clearly helped me, and it helped me a lot. Same goes for Teal Swan here. I will be bringing up a lot of criticisms against Teal and about her mental health teachings, I guess. Specifically about suicide. And a lot of them, if not all, have been backed up by mental health professionals who agree with me. However, does that mean if Teal Swan is helping you and you find her advice helpful that you shouldn't listen to her? That is a decision, that is a judgment that only you can make. I cannot make that decision for you. If you ask my opinion, it's pretty clear you shouldn't, but it's not something I could do. I will just say I have reasons to believe that, and I hope that you listen to those reasons. That's all. So, what am I talking about here? What the fuck am I talking about here? Well, there are several examples of this. Like, for instance, she has said on multiple occasions, in multiple videos that she has dedicated about suicide, that, quote, suicide is a reset button and it is a gift that you would give yourself.
What suicide is pushing the reset button. It's not a good or bad decision in and of itself. You cannot say that suicide is wrong without also saying that death is wrong. It makes it so that suicide can be our safety net or our reset button that's always available to us.
There are about 20 people in the audience. She's wearing a flowy purple dress and she's fidgeting with her mic cord as she paces the stage.
That's why it feels so fantastic to die. The process of dying, just say you get in a car crash, can be painful.
Teal just told the audience it feels fantastic to die. She says death is an immediate relief.
And the word choice alone is pretty bad. It's not good. I know that people who criticize Teal say that, hey, that's pretty bad, and I agree with that. However, I do think that we need to take the context into account here, because I find that a lot of people who are criticizing Teal don't include the context. So I was able to find the context of the reset button thing, and she is talking about it in a sense of, hey, I know that you have this urge to kill yourself. I know that that's the case. However, just know that you can kill yourself at any point in your life. You can do it an hour later, you can do it tomorrow, you can do it day after tomorrow. So how about we set aside suicide as a reset button and think of it as a option that is always available to us. It's used in a way to kind of help the person not be in that impulsive state, you know? Does that make sense? So yeah, the context does make it a bit better. However, the word choice alone is not great. And remember that this video is coming from someone who talks about mental health a lot and makes a lot of videos about suicide.
The greatest suffering on this planet is suffering that happens alone. And that is suicide. That's my number one focus.
Even though she may not be a mental health professional, people do kind of see her as an expert or an authority in a sense. So in my personal opinion, that's still problematic. But there's more. Specifically, one of the worst things that she does in her videos about suicide is to tell the person, the viewer, who's watching this video, who I believe is suicidal, to visualize in graphic detail how they want to off themselves. I'm gonna play a clip and this may be triggering to you. Be aware of that.
What is suicide? It's giving up completely on life. So let yourself physically give up on life by falling on the floor. When you're on the floor, I want you to imagine dying. Now here's the thing. You've been loosely and mostly subconsciously toying with the idea of suicide. You've been thinking about it, but not really consciously. This time, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to consciously imagine committing suicide. Imagine how you want to kill yourself and where you want to kill yourself. Imagine every grisly detail.
Yeah, no. Like, okay. Here's the thing. I have heard from someone who has told me that visualizing that had helped them. However, this is something that therapists and mental health professionals would advise against. And they say that specifically because this video is going to go out to thousands and thousands of people who are suicidal. And you may not know how people might react to that. You may not know how that person might react to visualizing their own death in graphic detail. You may not know that. And that's why it's dangerous to do that. And again, she's kind of saying this as an authority figure, even though she isn't a mental health professional, but she is kind of speaking as an authority figure. So this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. And again, this isn't just my opinion. This is consensus in mental health. Take a listen to this. This is a mental health professional talking about this.
When she said, visualize yourself, how you're going to kill yourself, I think that's the most problematic of many of the things that she said that are problematic, because she is telling you to rehearse your suicide. She's got these ideas that in her mind are only helpful, but for others could be really dangerous.
And in my head, that sort of makes sense, right? Like, if you're suicidal, to graphically visualize the way you want to kill yourself might not be the most helpful thing in this entire universe, you know? And again, this is something that mental health professionals agree upon. So Teal here is actively going against the mental health consensus. And again, just want to say this might have helped you, this may have helped some people that you know. However, this video is going to go out to hundreds of thousands of people who are suicidal. And you don't know how they might react to it. There's no way for you to know that. And mental health professionals say that, hey, this may have bad effects. So it's very possible that a lot of people might react very negatively to it. And Teal knows this. Teal knows about this. So she knows that it's wrong. She knows that mental health professionals disagree with her, and she doesn't listen. What the actual fuck? So Teal is very reckless with her messaging on mental health. And she had to answer for it multiple times on her channel. I could find a video that was made 2 years ago about Teal Swan responding to allegations. Then a video 10 months ago titled, Is Teal Swan an Online Code or Not? And one made about 11 months ago about Teal Swan's stance on suicide. She had to answer for this multiple times. And by the way, I haven't seen a video where she talks about, hey, I've changed my mind on these things, or anything along those lines. And again, I do think that in her head she is doing the right thing here. However, her actions may actually hurt people, and she doesn't see that when literal mental health professionals are saying that, hey, this is a bad idea. And of course, that makes complete sense because mental health professionals, what do they have? They just have qualifications, right? And qualifications, they're meaningless, obviously. Why would you need qualifications when you're fucking clairvoyant? Another thing I want to bring up with regards to her messaging on mental health is that she has told her client, her former client, Leslie, to, quote, commit to life or commit to death. And again, this is something that mental health professionals just disagree upon because that's not how human beings work. No matter how suicidal a person is, there's always a part of them that wants to live.
April Foreman studies suicidal behavior, and she focuses on the intersection of suicide prevention and social media. She's a suicidologist. But she did weigh in on the advice that Teal gave to Leslie. How do you feel about this whole notion of, like, if you are suffering, you have to commit to life or commit to death?
That doesn't match how human beings actually behave. And I don't know, anybody who says that just doesn't pay attention to data. And that's unfortunate. Most people who die by suicide at the time of their suicide attempts, and we know this and from multiple research, the data tells us that nobody is ever 100% committed to living or 100% committed to dying. It's a mix. And even in the middle of a suicide attempt, part of you wants to live.
And the reason why this is important is because Leslie, she's dead. She was a former client of Teal and she did end up committing suicide. Also, I just want to say this, that I don't think that Teal is responsible for Leslie's death. I don't think so. Like, there are multiple reasons. There are many reasons why someone might choose to kill themselves. To just blame it on one person is very simplistic. It's just not how humans work. So, I'm not saying that Teal is responsible for Leslie's death. However, just listen to Teal trying to justify saying to Leslie to, quote, commit to life or commit to death. Just listen to this.
I actually, interestingly enough, lost my first client to suicide this last year. And this was a woman who was absolutely miserable. And so we had that very serious sit-down talk where we had to say, all right, we're either committing or not committing to life. Because every time I gave her a suggestion, she'd stop in 2 days doing the suggestion. So then we have to ask the question, do we really want this to work? And what's interesting is when she asked herself that question, the answer was no, I'm done. So there's nothing that any healer could ever do for that type of vibration, which is totally fine. From source energy, there's nothing wrong with death from that perspective. So she chose to commit suicide. Interestingly enough, it took her about 2 days before she was reincarnated again.
What the actual fuck, Teal? What the fuck? To me, that seems so egotistical and so wrong and narcissistic to me. To say that there is nothing a healer could have done for that kind of, for the vibration that Leslie had. Are you really gonna bring in your spiritual jargon and try to justify, to say that, hey, there's nothing that anyone could have done to Leslie to stop her from killing herself? Really? What the actual fuck? What the fuck, Teal? To say that there is nothing that a healer could have done for that type of vibration. How do you know, Teal? How do you fucking know that? How do you know that there's nothing that someone could have done to save Leslie? How do you know that? There's no way for you to know that. Don't bring in that spiritual jargon by saying, oh, she just had the wrong kind of vibration. That's why I know it was obvious that there's nothing that anyone could have done to save her. Like, that's so repulsive. Do you guys get what I'm trying to say here? Like, do you guys feel what I'm feeling here? Like, I don't have words. I really don't have words. To first of all, try to justify saying to someone, you have to either, quote, commit to life or commit to death. That's bad enough. And then to go on to say, well, there's nothing that anyone could have done to save her. And why? Why is that the case? Because, she just had the wrong kind of vibration. This is so repulsive. You guys remember me saying that her spiritual jargon isn't just jargon? This is a clear example of that. In my opinion, the way that she uses her spiritual jargon is insidious. Even though I believe that in her heart, she doesn't want people to off themselves. I don't think so. However, this is pretty bad. Let's be real. So I hope you guys understand from this video why I don't really like Teal. There is a lot more that I could talk about here, but I think that the video is getting pretty long. So I'm gonna make a part 2 to this video, which I'm gonna record right now. But yeah, there is a lot more that I wanna get into, but this video is just getting way too fucking long. So I'm gonna post that in part 2. So subscribe if you wanna see that. I'm gonna post it tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I don't know exactly when. Follow me on Twitter to keep up with the updates, I guess. Actually, you know what? Don't follow me on Twitter. I just post random shit there. So yeah, there's that. Do the thing. Subscribe, like, comment. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day today. And as always, please do not touch your face.